So first, thank you everyone for coming. Great to see some of you enjoying your lunch. That's what these Artist Conversation series is about. First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we're gathering, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. Pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It's an absolute honour to live, learn and work on Whadjuk Noongar Budja. I'm really thrilled to have Valeriya back. It's been an absolute time since she's been an artist in residence here. And just to give you a bit of background, come in guys. Artist in residence here is something we open every term. Valeriya was one of them, 12 months, maybe more. It's been a decade. So we're really lucky that she's come back as a new mum too, but that's not what this talk's about, it's everything prior to that. So you get sort of like a double dip here. You get a talk from an artist and designer who's just absolutely fallen in love with the Rizzo. We get to hear some of her backstory and some of her future story. Come in everyone, you're welcome. So we're going to have people come in and go, and that's totally fine. I'll leave the door open and I'll pass you over to Valeriya. Thank you, please make her feel welcome.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much all of you to coming here today and spending your time here with me. I am very grateful to Brendan and to TAFE as well for giving me this opportunity to become an artist in residence. It wasn't just one term, it spread out because the book took some time to to be printed. But it was so much fun. It was an amazing opportunity, and it was just something that made me feel a bit overwhelmed. My name is Valeriya. I am a graphic designer, and I specialize mostly in branding, packaging, and then I create my packaging in a 3D. I also love to play with AI, and I am positive about AI. I'm not in a negative direction. And if you would want to see my work, I will share my Instagram and some other pages with you later on. So today we're going to be talking about a few things. So I hope some of these topics in the overview might get you excited. So as I've mentioned that the first part, I was very grateful, but at the same time I was very overwhelmed by what am I actually going to do, because I've gotten access to this amazing workshop downstairs, and I was able to come and leave when I please. I've just got an access to all the paper, to all the stock, to positive faces and all the support, and then I just had no idea where am I going to start. So I was feeling stuck. I had no idea. And then I started learning about Rizzo, because that was my first time printing in this beautiful machine as well. And I've just learned by doing. So then we're gonna find some happy accidents and talk about the time and the value of it. So that's pretty much describes the feeling, when you scroll your feed on Instagram or Behance and you go and think, oh, this just looks beautiful. How do I do that? And it doesn't make you feel inspired. It makes you feel overwhelmed, makes you feel stuck. It makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing, that your work is not there yet. And I wanted to print something, but I couldn't even pick the color, because we've got so many colors, so many options. There's just unlimited possibilities. And I was just feeling stuck. So then I just decided to start. The feeling of being stuck is very common to all of the creatives. It's not just you that don't know how to start a project and open Illustrator and just have an empty A4. I think it's what all of us have to deal with on a daily basis. And as I mentioned, everyone's work just feels confident, finished, and yours just feels not there yet. And you just don't start. You keep pushing it. You just save your Pinterest boards. You save your, Instagram saved, and you just never get back to that idea again. And that's just a sad part of being creative. So instead of just feeling stuck, what I have done is I have decided to print every single color that we have, just because I didn't know how they look. Because when you look at these drums, they just all packed in. Of course, you can see slightly, but we've got so many different papers, so much different paper stock as well. So every color would look different on each paper. Then how they're going to combine. Like, we did not have that knowledge yet at TAFE, so that's what I have decided to do. And apparently I have an outdated information because we have now 12 colors of drums. Beautiful colors. Like, honestly, I just decided to print every single color, and I didn't know what I was doing back then. I've just created an artwork, followed the YouTube tutorial, how to split the layers, and just started to print it without actually having an idea what's going to happen next. The only thing I've done as well is that all of my artwork, you will see the save zone. So yeah, I've just download some templates and saw how you actually print A3 and A4. So then moving forward, I can actually cut it and do something with it. And yeah, we have 12 drums available right now. And I was pregnant at the time. Brandon didn't know it, so it's not on the tape. But yeah, I wasn't just mentioning it, and I was doing, other fitness classes, so it wasn't really an issue for me. But the drums are heavy. You have to consider it when you print every single color available. Yeah, and apparently 10 colors got an outcome of 45 possible combinations of 2 colors, which is quite a lot. And I didn't know that when I started printing. So you could see my strategy here. I would just write teal and pink, teal and orange, teal and yellow, and then after, because I would come and go week after week, even months would pass, and I'll just keep coming and keep doing it. And then at some point I was like, so which colors am I actually missing? Because I would print in the book the heavier colors, like teal, or like, like blue, and then I would put the lighter colors on top of them. And then I just put it all in ChatGPT, and apparently it had so many colors missing. I almost gave up at this point because I've realized that I still have to print like full red and full, just so many of them. And then I've realized that I need to start following the structure, and if I want to ever finish this experiment, I actually hadn't an idea. I thought that I'm just going to print it for fun. And then, somehow we came up to this watch book that is pretty useful, and people can refer to it now. Overall, how I have, my first touch base with Riso was just my idea. I've got some inspo before TAFE, maybe a few years before that, and I wanted to print some of my artwork. I'm not an illustrator, so it's a bit easier when you create illustrations because you know what you're going to print, even though it's still hard to have a creative idea. But then I think Riso is more for illustrators, if we are being real, than for graphic designers, maybe. Well, if you create art and photo, it's discussion. Anyway, so I followed one of the studios, and I've asked them, how much is it going to cost? How am I going to print? And they sent me a PDF with about 30 to 40 pages of instructions. And I just never opened it. I looked at it. There was so much about the, about the colors, about the splitting. It's a lot. But then once you start doing it, it's really not that hard. People make it sound way harder than it is, and it's much more forgiving than people make it sound. And the alignment, because when you print one color on top of another, they will tell you that you have to have a perfect alignment, which you really don't. I haven't used anything. I just put one paper on top of another, and sometimes I put it the wrong way, but well. But I did enjoy the outcomes of wrong alignment more than of the perfect alignment, because that's just the whole fun of Riso. And then another thing as well about the drying, I guess I've just been told that you need to let Riso dry, which is correct. We all know it's how the ink works, but it's not 100% true. I did print because I wouldn't be able to wait days for some of the inks to dry. So of course some of them, like teal, I had to leave it and come back to it and overprint it. But some of the lighter inks, like fluoro colors, I would just print one on top of another, and nothing happened. So yeah, the drying is a thing, but it is still possible to print it fairly quickly. Yeah, and then we just jump into the findings. And what I have found for myself quite interesting is that, you know, you've done all the gradients and the color charts, but in my personal opinion, I don't feel like colors mix in how the color theory works, which I was expecting to happen, you know, but some of the lighter ones they do. You know, we have the yellow and blue, and obviously we get the green. But most of them, they really don't. Like they create a different color, of course, but it doesn't feel exactly like in a painting, you know. You don't really get this exact color. So more of them, instead of blending, they actually go one on top of another. So that's something that you have to consider, and that's what will make your artwork look different, which color you're going to bring first. And of course, the rule is you put the more saturated color as a first color, and then the lighter color as a top color. But at the same time, what if your artwork would look completely different if you would put the lighter color? You know, it's, again, so many different opportunities and possibilities that you can actually test and see how the artworks would look different if you just try to play around. So yeah, the colors are interacting, they stack, they really do stack on top of one another, and yeah, and colors overpower each other depending on their saturation. And yeah, another thing is, I think the very last color that I have printed was, well, it's called red, but now we've got another red, but I think it's just called red, and now we have marine red. So I wasn't excited about this color at all, because I've seen it in drum, and I was like, yuck. So it was same for metallic color for me. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, but whatever. And then they both printed beautifully, and I think that overall that's probably one of my favorite color combinations would be, you know, like something with teal and metallic and the red, because the red just printed like a brown. Yeah, here it is as well. Oh, that's an orange one. Yeah, so the red, I even put red on top of red, and just beautiful brown color. So yeah, sometimes some things that you're not excited about produce the best results, you know. You can see here some of these hearts are brown, and it's red, but it is brown. And just such beautiful color, especially in combo with teal and some of the other ones. So here you can see the artboard. And I did try to play around as well with gradients and with my photography. So the next step for me was to print some of my photography. And again, I just followed a tutorial on YouTube, like we all do with anything in life. And it was fairly easy. Like, I think if you've done it once, it might take you an hour, but then you can just do it within 5 minutes time. So yeah, I'm printing my photography using Riso, and I split images into CMYK channels in Photoshop. And the photography is messier because you split those channels, and there is quite a high amount of black. You can control that as well, but there's even more possibilities to print than it is with illustrations, because in illustration you sort of know your final outcome that you want to achieve, while with photography, the amount of this splitting CMYK channels is really like such a playful part. You can put more effects on it, you can choose more ink, less ink, so yeah, you can play with curves again and just figure out what colors you want to get. And yeah, and again, you're printing on different colors, so the outcome would be different. And I started printing some of the smaller keychains, and my idea was to play with some of the 3D shapes. So you will see like some of the 3D shapes that I put on. I just wanted to see how they're going to print. And I like some of their outcomes, like you'll see it here when you come closer to look. But the photography was surprisingly lovely. And again, that's our marine red and teal. It's just, or aqua, probably aqua, because it's a bit lighter. But the gradients, I never figured it out. I think the gradients wasn't my, it was nice to play around, but I think the colors don't really blend as I was expecting them to. But again, it's all about the splitting the channels in CMYK, like the way how you're going to mix them, the way what color lays on top of another. So I sort of like that color combo. There's probably even 3 colors in here. I can't even remember. But yeah, the photography was more fun than the gradients for me because they never really blended the way I wanted them to. And I'll show you some of the references of the girls that do the photography. So yeah, that's a fluoro and aqua and some more yellow. And I think it's quite, because to be honest, this picture, like this is probably the closest result to the original images, because that was just the blue waters, and this one was like an entrance in Fremantle, and it was red, so it's fairly close to the original picture. And yeah, what this talk was originally about is that the biggest shift for me was that you don't need an idea to start, and you know how you're stuck at the beginning, and again you see all the people doing their best work, and the worst part of it that when you open Behance, it's huge teams doing this work behind this. You can't see how many like their experience, how many people have done this project. You can of course go and follow every single person that's done that project, but you cannot compare yourself to the complete projects on Behance. Like, just never do that. Just think about all the people that are behind the curtain, and just remember that your idea is never bad. Just do things, just start, and just try to play around and try to enjoy it. And I quite like that as well, that you should make it exist first, and then you can make it good later. So that's what happened with that book, I guess, because I just started printing different colors, and then we came up with the idea that could be a book. The other thing as well, you can see that some of the covers are like an A4 format, so we actually started cutting the paper, because originally it was meant to be a smaller book, so some of those, that was meant to be the size of the book. But once we printed them and cut them, we realized that that's probably not the full artwork, and I actually enjoy having it as a one page together, because there's also the textures and halftone and just different effects or noise that explain a bit more the idea of trying to experiment with as many different ways of using Riso as possible. So yeah, that's how we changed our mind as well about the layout of the book itself, and that's why we have different variations of like an A4 or a horizontal format. I wanted to give you a few more references, just the things that I followed and things that I found very enjoyable. This is probably the best page. They just do such beautiful colors, color combinations, something very unexpected, It's then the first one is creating the animation with Riso, which takes fairly good amount of time to split the images into the layers, and yeah, but that's just, again, the beauty of the process, and then you create these beautiful animations. And the last one was the girl that created gradients, so that was the thing that didn't quite work for me as well. And yeah, that's still something to discover, still something to play around with, to create the gradients. And yeah, the other thing as well, that the book has only got 2 color combinations. It can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5, There's still lots of room to test. Maybe your book is going to be next. Yeah, so again, I'll just show the gradients, because I think I quite skipped them. Here you can see on the left how we are splitting the CMYK in the Photoshop, and just animating it in After Effects, and then creating the Riso animation, which adds a lot of labor work. And yeah, and then the life shifted, and as I mentioned, I was pregnant at the time, and yeah, I've got a little girl. She's 9 months now, and that changed the perspective of many things, especially, so when I was pregnant, I've had all the time in the world. I was freelancing, but I freelanced with Europe, because I spent 8 years in Czech Republic, so my clients are mostly from Europe, so I would do my work at the evening, and I would still have some morning time for free. And I just spent my entire pregnancy doing fun things like coming to TAFE and learning Blender. I've spent countless hours in Blender just messing around. It's really hard to start, but then once you get it, you get it. But that's exactly what I've been doing. You know, I just spent like 4 months opening Blender every second or third day. And then, yeah, that's the thing that you find when you get a kid, that the time is very limited, which is very obvious, I guess, for some of the parents. And I remember seeing some of the memes that when you're young, you don't have money, but then when you get older, you get money, but no time, and just looking at it and like thinking, haha. But yeah, that's very real. You don't have time. The time has a dollar sign on it. You know, you can get time, but you need daycare, a babysitter, your partner. You need to have so much to consider that every hour you spend has a direct cost. So that's the whole idea of it. Again, right now you have something incredibly valuable, which is time, and you're not going to have it forever. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be procrastinating or having fun or, you know, spend the time as you wish, but at the same time just to play around and not to put yourself in any boundaries of, you know, not doing it for the client, not doing it for the feedback, not doing it for your portfolio, just doing it for the sake of doing it. That's what I think the main idea of this talk is. You have to use your time, just try things, try, you know, whatever you think is a good idea. Again, I've mentioned Blender a few times. It takes countless hours of trying to figure out the Blender. And yeah, you can be bad at things. That's also allowed. You don't have to compare yourself to the best projects on Behance and think why my texture of the image doesn't look as good, or why am I not creating such beautiful branding as they are. And don't rush yourself to be efficient. So, you know, again, waste your time. Just waste it. Just do, you know, imagine how much time that took. And that made me realize how easy the Reason Machine is. And, you know, you just spend time on things that you enjoy. And you just do it. It's artsy, it's beautiful, it makes you inspired, it makes the beautiful outcome, even if it doesn't. So yeah, your value is not your productivity, is another thing that, it's not some of my says, it's just something that I find that reflects to me very well. And not everything needs to be meaningful. Again, you can just start the project without, that's the thing for me, that I have to always have the idea for the branding or idea for the packaging that reflects a bit more. So, you know, if that's the topic of the circus, then my bottle is going to be looking like hexagon. And, you know, it's important for the branding to actually reflect in people's mind, but at the same time, not always. Sometimes when you start something, it doesn't have to like look beautiful or mean something. Sometimes you just need to do something just to get yourself out of your own little prison. And yeah, some things just need to be made. You also just need to follow this, because sometimes it's going to be the client asking you for the feedback that you don't want to do, or the things that you don't want to be doing, or the opposite. You just want to be free. You just want to do it. So I guess that's the final thing that comes out of it. We also just need to bring having fun, and not everything needs to become a project or content. You know, another thing as well, that you would just find something and you think, okay, this project goes to my portfolio, and now you get disappointed because of the client's feedback and your project doesn't look like you want it anymore. And this is fine, you'll have hundreds of other projects, like you will. If you are staying in your profession, then don't rush it, you will get there. You don't have to overcomplicate it, and just create things for the sake of creating, and just because you want them to exist and you want to. And yeah, just a little artboard of how I was doing our poster just now. And yeah, obviously it just takes lots of different ideas, layouts. We just tweak things until they look pretty, aren't we? That's the whole job of the graphic designer, as I see it. yeah, I've got some of the freebies as well for you. So if you want to grab some of the things, you're also very welcome. And I've also got a few books that I'm not using anymore. They're a bit outdated, but still they've got some ideas, or you can as well use them for the collages or whatever you want to. And how are we doing on time? Do you want to still have a little chat, or?
Just take some questions.
Yeah, I can answer some questions, or as well I can have like an extra 5-minute discussion to compare the experiences of. So yeah, I wanted to talk about as well the freelance, the corporate jobs, and working in agency, because I've done it all in a very short time before having a baby. And I just think people romanticize freelance a lot. And they say, oh, but you're a freelancer, so you this, and that. But think about how much you have to do as a freelancer, meaning that you are your own accountant, you are your own business manager, you are your own creative director, you are your own. And there is also the jobs that you don't want to be doing, especially the communication, and communication with the client, communication with the stakeholders. And this is just something that working in an agency cuts off for you. So, you are just representing yourself, and you are just mostly following the tasks and directions that has already been discussed before. So that's another thing to think about. Maybe if you are not the person that loves to talk to your clients, or do the problem solving, and you just want to design and bring some ideas to the table, or spend hours in design, because that's probably what most of the marketing agency would require, then that can be something that may interest you. And another thing I've done as well, I was a designer in the corporate settings, and that was very laid back, very relaxing. I was a design project manager, so I was actually managing the whole team, and I was doing something that's called the efficiency modeling. So we were putting basically the $ to every single hour that each designer spends on a task. So we had the efficiency comparisons, which is, again, we're talking about time, but it is different in a corporate than it is for a junior designer, than it is for the freelancer. You've been told probably to track your time, which is important, especially when you're junior, so you know how much each task takes. But then at the same time, if you're creating the full branding or something more valuable for yourself, for your portfolio, do we actually need to put yourself in the time frame? Probably not. So yeah, and when you work for the corporate, that's probably slightly easier, because the tasks that you're doing are slightly less creative, even though that corporate wasn't too bad, because we were creating some of the visuals for the events, some of the visuals for the website, and yeah, it was a massive company like Data Corporation. But that was just felt like the designer when they are retired, so you are, of course, just following what you've been told. You have an art director that makes all the decisions, but you are probably not making many decisions. You come to the table with presenting your ideas, but then the art director is the one who makes all the decisions, which is different with the in-agency experience again, because when you're in agency, especially in a smaller one, you probably still can, if the client comes back with the feedback, you can still probably fight, while in corporate settings, that's not the case. So you have to, when you come to the corporate, you have to accept that. You have to know that it's not always going to be the something that you love or something that's the best. And that's another thing as well, that sometimes, most of the time, the client actually knows what is better. You need to fight back when when the font it's unreadable or this and that, but sometimes the clients, they do know better. Yes, you need to fight, but at the same time you need to think, does it worth the $? Does that worth your energy? Does it worth just arguing and making killing the relationship? Yeah, that's probably me. All right, I can answer some questions if you would like to ask anything.
I have a question
Sure.
about your gradients.
Yeah.
Did you experiment with some of the halftone screens with your gradients, like small ones to mid-range to large? Or did you have one specific
Well,
halftone screen that you used?
well, they're definitely, like even here, they are go from 100% to 0. So of course they would be like, or if you look at the way how I separated the layers in the artboard, then you know it goes from 0 to 100%. So and it goes in a different way. So
I'm
yeah,
asking because I'm going to do some Rizzo tomorrow. Oh, here we go.
yeah.
And okay, so you've got some finer
So
screens and some broader screens.
That's halftone applied digitally.
That's halftone already applied, yeah. So, and there's also the halftone that it comes with the Rizzo, so you can press a few buttons that will do the halftone, but better to do it digitally,
Was
I
this all
think.
printed straight from your computer? or
Straight
did
from
you
the
have
computer,
masters
yeah,
straight
yeah.
from the computer?
Yeah, that's another thing as well, that I was printing straight from the computer,
Yeah.
and that might as well make it slightly easier to split the channels when you do it with the illustration and when you scan it.
Okay.
And that's one of the other findings as well. So when I was doing lots of these little arts, they were done in Illustrator, so I still used different layers, and I just created the artboard. And it was still easier to separate it in Photoshop, because like splitting it was just so many different artboards, so many different illustrations, and splitting them into different layers was just easier in Photoshop because it's just faster and efficient. So yeah,
So were your gradients created as vector gradients or Photoshop?
vector.
Vector? That's probably why they weren't blending.
Yeah.
So the way the Rizzo kind of reads a vector, unless it was rasterized there, it like stages it a bit more, and it doesn't do a nice blending thing. So like they worked here, but like
I think they all are images because they are
yeah,
then split in Photoshop.
Rizzo, like for anyone who's doing their Rizzo things, between it's about like 40% opacity and 10% opacity. It's really bad at blending those opacities, so you start to see striping happening. Just for reference, if anyone's doing gradients, and you can kind of see it when we're looking at the lighter colors in our gradients here. It does the like, banding.
So basically do the lesser opacity is the
so
advice.
You're with a gradient, you probably don't want to go under like 15% opacity, because then it just cuts off. So at 15% it goes to just like really
To
low
say
in
50,
coverage.
so 15 to 50, and then they will blend a bit nicer.
They'll blend a bit nicer. You can go like at 15 to an 80% gradient, works really well. Outside of that, the colours just drop off at the lower end and they just look the same.
Yeah,
above
yeah,
80%.
the same again. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the thing that I found, that the colors are more layering on top of each other rather than blending nicely. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is a fantastic
Thank you.
talk. We'd love to get a copy of your slides showing both design and visual arts students. I think it's a click for both. My question is around the play that you did initially to get things rolling. I think to me that's kind of there's something really powerful there. But I noticed that you seem to be it seemed to be quite structured the way that it wasn't like a messy going off in random directions kind of play. You were quite systematic, and I wonder what your thoughts are on being systematic versus kind of just going out into the dark and playing without direction.
I think it depends on your personality. So there are very structured people that become project managers, you know, and I am not a structured person. So, you know, when I was showing one of the slides above, there was just written on a paper, so I just ran it through ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me my next steps. So that's why it might feel structured, but it was structured by AI, which is helpful for people that are a bit messier like myself. But yeah, I knew that we don't have the swatch book. I had some references, of course, because there are lots of existing swatch books available for the Rizzo printing. So I knew that I want to do something, but I never knew that I'm going to print every single color. Even halfway through the process, I just realized, okay, maybe if I come here 5 more times, I will be able to do something. And yeah, so the same goes with having it as a book which just came out from Brandon. He said, okay, well, maybe we should do something about it. And yeah, my idea was to help students, to be honest. Like, I wanted this to be something that I wanted to be useful, because I've got this beautiful opportunity to come and go wherever I please and use the stock, the paper, the machine, and I was just very grateful. And I think those things that I have at the end there, the make it exist first, and these were the things that I originally wanted to print in a letterpress, just so, you know, that will be like a posters of the things that go into my head. The comparison is a thief of joy, and, you know, make it exist first, all this saying that are very important to keep reminding yourself about these things as being a creative. Yeah. So it's more about mess for me than the structure, but I think it's personality. Like, some people are very structured, they know what they're doing, even without having a creative idea at first, but they would come up as what they want to do and how they want to learn about the machines and all this. But yeah, I just open YouTube and try to figure things out. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm really interested in the 45 colour combinations you came up with by using the 10 colours.
Yeah.
Did you do the math, or did you just?
Well,
like,
AI
write
did the
it
math,
down?
so if
Oh,
it's
okay.
wrong, then if it's wrong, then it's not me. I don't know how to count. You know, I'm an artist. Like, that's what my mom always been telling, that I don't have to learn math. I've been always into. I know, but I have a husband, so you know, there's a better half of me does the math in the family. Yeah.
Not a question, but I just want to say thank you, because we are actually doing laser prints at the moment, and the colour book, lifesaver, because we're all trying to prepare and plan out what it's going to look like, and we have no clue. And then our teacher came and gave us the book, and we're like, thank you so much. So yeah, thank you for creating it, because it's really useful.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. And there was the original idea, you know, because I also came there and I was like, what do I do? There was just a machine. Like, of course, there was different beautiful arts that are on the wall. And again, you look at it, you compare yourself, you're like, can I do this? Can I do not? And then, yeah, you just start printing. And then one of the topics was as well the unexpected outcomes. So as I mentioned as well, sometimes I would put it the wrong way, and I've actually loved those way more. Or there are, I think, overprints of like two colors on top of one another, and they look cool. They look like glitch, and like, this is just so cool that you would never find out that that's actually gonna happen. You know, like, this is such cool color combos as well. And yeah, if TAFE would have me back once the time is easier, I'll definitely do some more stuff in the letterpress, because I've only spent a few days doing it, but I've just started experimenting, like, different paper and different amount of ink, and I'm already loving the textures, and I can see how. But again, the letterpress was the same for me. I was just like, what do I actually print? So it is, you know, not just goes to, you know, just what do I actually print was the question. And that's when I came up with some of this motivational things to put on a paper. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Please put
much.
your hands together.
Thanks.